I've heard about these social clubs through social media, so like Facebook and Twitter, and especially about that Vice article that came out, and it totally went viral, and it was passed around, and shared. Yeah, and that's kind of how I heard about it, because I wasn't here as a pass holder to experience these clubs that other pass holders created. So for me, it's like kind of showing up when I can to the parks. It's really interesting going like, oh, this wasn't here a couple years ago. Like, how did this happen? Like, I remember back in the days when I used to be on Mice Chat, and that's kind of as much as like a club you could get, because you would all meet at the hub on Sundays and kind of just hang out, and that was kind of like, there wasn't any like, like Main Street Elite or anything like that, or people walking around in vests. Oh, it's like, I think if I saw a group of them all coming down the street, I don't know how I would deal with that, because I'm not used to seeing something like that. What rumors I've heard about these guys, just kind of stuff you see in like comments, like comments on social media. Like, I've heard them like cutting in lines. I've heard them being really obnoxious to other guests. I've heard them like kind of trashing places, like wherever they go, they kind of leave disaster in the wake. Yeah, just kind of being like not being rude to cast members. Kind of thinking they own the place. This territorial feeling is like what I've been mostly hearing about them.
We use Ohana a lot. Obviously, that's from like Lilo and Stitch. We kind of ran with that when my girlfriend's son got diagnosed with leukemia. And a lot of us, including me, a bunch of members at that time, we all cut off our hair. A lot of the girls cut their hair really short. My girl family, even just a club. That's when we really saw that people were willing to go that extra mile for someone that they really don't know that well, but because we're in the same club, Well, Jonathan, Andrea's son, got diagnosed about, I would say, a little over 2 years ago. He's in remission now, and he's doing a lot better. When he went into remission the first time, what people don't know, some people don't know, they said, we can put you on this treatment, but there's a chance that it might come back. But if you're willing to try it, and his first reaction was just, I instantly cried, When they asked him about this new treatment, his first reaction was like, well, I'll try it, because if maybe me doing this might prevent something like this happening to my little sister, which is my daughter. And that, and hearing that from a 11-year-old kid, willing to do something like that for his little sister, just in case that might happen to him.
I started Main Street Elite 2 years ago with 3 of my friends, 2 of whom I work with at a barbershop in Los Angeles. And it first started because me and my wife were trying to pursue one of the first social clubs, which was the Neverlanders. So they had a cap on their members, and they said they were full up and they wouldn't be taking anybody else. So we thought that was really unfair, and we really didn't like the way that was going down. So I brought that to the attention to my buddies at work, and we were kind of just talking about it, and we got each other riled up to the point where we were like, well, we should start a club then. And we were here at the park one day just going over ideas and going through names, and we eventually thought of Main Street Elite, we take things from different cultures that we were into, and kind of made that part of our style. And we just recruited our friends basically. When we first we had our first meet, there was 13 people there. Word spread pretty fast, and we had 120 members in under 8 months. We first started out because the Neverlanders wouldn't let us in, and we didn't put a cap on ourselves, and that's how we grew so quickly, I think, because people were, people that come to the park and didn't really identify with their friends. We didn't know who to choose and like how to, filter everything. So that was the hardest thing, because we'd go through so many members and we'd get so big, and then people would start to complain about, oh, I don't know that person, who's that? And like, I've been here so long and I don't even know that guy. And like, people started thinking it's a seniority thing. And that was kind of like the biggest issue, is like, oh, who has the most say and all of this stuff. And so after a while, I had to just tell everyone that I felt like I needed to be in charge, because everyone else just gabbing back and forth was just like causing too much friction. We did have a cap at one point, and just so we could accommodate all of our members that we currently have. And we had to turn people away, and I think with the same inspiration that I got from the Neverlanders is how some of the social clubs after us came about. You get declined enough times, it's eventually going to happen. So I think that's what sprouted at one point. there were so many social clubs, the bigger ones, to come together and make a committee of founders for the bigger social clubs, which I went to the first meeting and joined the text messages, and then it seemed that they were just trying to create another social club because the other ones had expanded so much, because they didn't feel so exclusive anymore, that there were so many clubs that there were pass holders, that they were, gonna start a committee of founders, and it wasn't really like, and it seemed like it was just a little bit too elite, too elite for me. For a long time, everyone thought the social clubs had rivalries. When we first came out, Main Street Elite, we weren't really in good standing with the Neverlanders because we were the second social club. We came out because they weren't able to have us join, so we became the second one, something that they thought we were copying, we were doing something. It's like, no, we were just kind of expanding because we wanted to be a part of that. And it's kind of funny to think if the Neverlanders let us join, that maybe there wouldn't be a Main Street. And then also I think the biggest thing besides that is the attention we got. All of the negative attention that has just like scattered throughout the years, just building up and just kind of making us into something we're not. I don't know, they thought we were taking over the park. They thought we were a bad thing, and that somehow we were, taking, integrity away from the park, and just, they'd see one bad thing or just a mistake, and they just we had magnifying glass on us. Like, even the people at the park, security would follow us. They would have a, they'd have a sign when they'd see us. They'd go like this to reference our vests, and they would do eye and hand signals to go, catch up with us and stuff like that. So we were seen as a threat, and which I see both sides of it, but we're not. This club's about roller coasters and cartoons. How can you be that threatening?
Everybody has like a quad they went through in high school, and everybody has those different groups of people that they see. They have like the emo kids, they have like the jocks, they have like the nerds, they have like the overly like social kids, they have like the fashion kids, but everybody breaks off into like the quad, into their like little separate sections. And so it's like I was placed into the quad, and it's just everybody from every group was just all in one spot. And I walked into like in the middle of that, and it was such a great experience, just seeing the different types of people that I've been able to meet, and just the different backgrounds everybody has come from, and how we all love one thing. And yeah, I started hearing stories that first that we were like that it was a gang, and that second that we got in tons of fights, and that there was different types of altercations at the park on days that I were there, and did base their opinions off of the visual appearance. And so it was like the tattoos, it was the piercings, it was all of that. It was the way that we carried ourselves, or the way that we dressed, that people automatically said, wow, a bunch of dudes with tattoos, it's a gang. It was definitely a little disheartening, and there were altercations that I even had with myself, with just like name calling and stuff like that. When I'm at the park, of all places, like when I'm at Disneyland, from people that it kind of gave you that feeling that like, wow, like these people are really like feel this way about these social clubs. And, my brother and sister were a little bit more hesitant just because of the fact that they work here, and so they've heard a lot already. And so when they saw that I was a part of that, it threw them off a little bit, especially my brother. He heard a lot about social clubs having altercations at the park, so to speak. There was a lot of times where he told me that he heard rumors of fights breaking out. He actually heard one rumor that I was at the park. I will never forget this. I was at the park one day, and he texted me while he was working, and he's like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, what's up? He's like, I heard there's a fight going on Main Street. And I was like right around the corner from Main Street, but there was nothing. So I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, well, I heard from some of the people that I work with, there's a fight right now. Security had to break it up. I'm like, there's no fight right now. We're still in the park. Stories like that started flustering more and more and more. And he's literally become like our voice within that Disney umbrella. So all of this stuff, he told me he would constantly hear rumors every day when he came to work. Like, there were just a bunch of gangs. Like, we were sneaking in alcohol, we were sneaking in drugs, we were smoking in the bathrooms, we were like cutting in line, we were talking about guests. But he was the main defense behind all that. I never thought that the people of Disney would even care or would even think about it. I would always thought that they would just be like, oh, okay, it's something else that's going on in the park, whatever. But I heard from someone else. And so all together, it's always been like kind of like a whisper in the air, like whatever, so and so, and it's just gotten around, and so it's gotten all the way up until the people that run Disney. So we know it's like an all-seeing eye is watching us, and so they know like what's going on at the park, and so us as a social club, we have to be very, very mindful of that. Some people, they just happen, just like any other guest would go to Mad Tea Party and get drunk, but you're wearing a vest. So that means that you need to carry yourself a little bit better. It's like being on a basketball team. We would go to basketball tournaments, and we would have to carry ourselves a certain way, and then we'd go to these banquets, and there'd be a lot of teams, there'd be a lot of boosters, there'd be a lot of all these other people here there with us, but we'd always know that we had to carry ourselves different because we were representing the school. So when we first interacted with security, we noticed that more of them would come. First, it would be like we would go over to Mad Tea Party, there would be like maybe like 6 or 7 of us. One security guard would pop up, and then we would see the whole like CIA type stuff, like speak ears, talk to like the headset or whatever, and then multiple security guards would come. And then pretty soon we would see 6 to 7 to 8 security right in our little section. And so we would just know like, wow, like these guys are really, 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 really watching us. There, they would be right next to us, like listening to our conversations. And so it really took us branching out and just talking to them one day. Just like, hey, like, what's up? I'm Bobby. I'm like from like Main Street Lead, da 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 da. And so it really took all that to really like narrow that, get all that away.